Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dancers. What? It's Vaughn here, and today I have an amazing and exclusive interview with Wayne Eng. And I'm going to let Wayne come on in and introduce himself to the people. Wayne, please, for those who don't know who you are, who've been living under a rock in the dance sport world, who are you?
I'm Wayne Eng, and I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. I'm the organizers of the United States DanceSport Championship and the Emerald Ball Dance Championship, two of the largest dance competitions in the United States. And I am also the founder of Dance Vision since 1992. And years ago, I danced with my wife in a professional Latin for 8 to 9 years. So that's a quick over about my background.
Yeah, I love that because I was getting a sort of bio about all the things you do. I'm like, oh my God, this introduction doesn't take like 10 minutes. You have done a lot. You are a dancing entrepreneur, which is why I was like, we've got to talk. This will be amazing for people to be inspired by. And so, DanceSport Champions from 1981 to 1989. Then you retired to start a family. Independent studio owner from 83 to 1994. One of the top in the nation. Founder and CEO of Dance Vision since 1992. You're also the chairman and CEO of Emerald Ball and the director of the United States Dance Championships. And there's probably like other things too. But the reason I think it's important for people to understand that is you're a very unique man. And so it's good to see someone who's been through the dance world and also then created new opportunities, new products, new services within that as well. So that's typically an entrepreneur, right? And there's very few people like that. So I want to pick your brain a little bit and find out. And so those who are listening, thinking, what are you going to get from this? We're going to talk about the business side of dance sport, which is very hard to get information on to find out what's going on, the relational side of things, and of course, your thoughts on where things are sort of going as well. Could you share with everyone one of the hardest events that you've had to navigate your way through? Because you've been doing the Emerald Ball as one of many championships you're part of. So what was one of the hardest events you've had to navigate through, and why was it challenging?
Well, I can name probably two or three. One was in Los Angeles. I can't remember the year, 1990. Um, the Emerald Ball started the week of the riot, the Los Angeles riot, Rodney King. That was a big riot when the whole city was being burned down, and the mayor implemented that everyone needed to stay home. We started our competition on a Wednesday, and it broke out on Thursday afternoon. So, which means everybody was flying into LA. And you know what the good news was? I only had one studio cancel. I answered the same questions. You guys are watching CNN and you're watching the same news. And they always show the worst part. This is LA. Of course, I fudge a little bit because when you fly over the airport, you can see the whole LA area. Smoke was up, fire was everywhere. Local people were driving to the competitions. They had rocks thrown at the car. Every hotel was shut down on that on Century Boulevard by the airport, except my hotel. We were the only event that was running. We had a VIP party with 35 guests that was at Beverly Hills, and they were having a brunch, a Beverly Hills brunch. I was at the hotel. When this broke out, I called the bus driver and say, you need to get them back to the hotel because the riot was moving from Hollywood to Beverly Hills. The bus driver or the company said, the bus driver's not there. He took off. Well, I quickly used my four-letter word and said, you know what, back there. And he got back there in 2 hours because there was a lot of traffic. Long story short, it took him 3 hours to get back to the hotel when it's usually a 20-minute drive. On the ride home in the bus, they put the ladies in the inside. The men were outside on the window, so they couldn't see the ladies. It was pretty scary, and my wife Donna was with them at that time, and she was pregnant with my first son.
Oh my
So
God.
that was one of the hardest one. I'm proud of it because it was a 4-day event, and I didn't have to cancel anything.
Oh,
So
that's so
everything went
intense.
on. Yeah,
That's
my
so
Friday
intense.
night, Saturday night tickets were sold out, even though there was a curfew that said you could not get out of your house.
Yeah,
Um,
to put it in perspective for people, the Rodney King riots, right? There were four officers that were let go from excessive force in the death of Rodney King, and there were
Correct.
10,000 first arm responders in the area. There were 12,000 arrests, 2,000 injured, and 63 people died, and $1 billion in damages. This was not like being held up in traffic. This was an intense.
Wait. How do you get that information? Were you googling it
Yeah.
while I
Like
was talking?
just to give
Yeah.
perspective, because this is not like traffic was held up for 20 minutes, right? This is an intense, serious political cultural storm, and you're like literally taking the Broadway saying of the show must go on, like to the nth degree.
And you're right. And you're right. It's So that was something special. We ran it, and I remember on Saturday, I was about to call the news, local news, say, come on down, watch your competition, see what we're doing. But someone was smarter than me and said, you don't want to do that. Because if you let people know you're here, the riot may come here and
Oh.
break down the hotel, which was possible because to give you how idea how close we were 1.5 miles from the start of the riot. Where he was beaten up in that location, we were just down the street. That's where everything started. That's
Mm.
how close we were.
Yeah,
So I was
it's
happy
it's a
to
tragic set
get
of
it done.
circumstances, and the and I think, I suppose, in the positive side of things, you've got the something positive happening in a world of negative, right? So that's very cool. And one of the well, I went to the Emerald Ball just for recently. So this is my first experience going to your one of your championships, and wow! So shout out to everyone thinking about doing it. Go do this championship. We went from Australia. A few ladies went with me, and you are consummate professional, very welcoming, highly organized, on time, even towelettes for your face. All right, okay. I was like, you've got me. I'm coming back. This is amazing, because I sweat so much, and nobody ever thinks about the poor dude sweating and dancing. And so, just all the detail, right? So, and
Right.
in Australia, we look at the American culture. It's like you all do things big, right? Go big or go home is a saying we have, but very much so in that case, and it was very exciting, right, to be part of that. And so, in I suppose in your mindset of things, right? So looking at, running an event, like, and that's a good example of risk, right? So you have a decision to make. You've got this very once in a generation type riot going on, but it's not just that. It's the risk about continuing, right? So like, what's your sort of philosophy around risk, for example? So you're faced with a hard circumstance or something difficult, or a new product or new service or a new venture that you don't know if it's going to work out. Like, how do you have a sort of guiding philosophy that you use to help navigate that?
In any business proposal or deal that I go into, I always look at the worst situation. We all know what can go well. That's why we go into that business or project. But what's the worst that can happen? And you think through it, and if that's the worst, can you deal with it? And if the answer is yes, then that's fine. Then you move. Then that's how I decide. Then I go with it. If there's a business I look at and I say, well, this is the worst that can happen, and I do not want to deal with it, or it's not smart of me to go into that situation, then I won't go into that project.
So you're sort of weighing it up, right? Like a
Correct.
scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always do any project. Well, what's your best possibility? What's your reality possibility? And what can go wrong? And you have to look at that and be prepared to handle it if it does come up.
Mm. the what can go wrong is always interesting to me because there's a tolerance for that, right? Like,
Correct.
because you can go bankrupt, okay, but you can restart. And most people who are millionaires have gone bankrupt once or twice. Typically, this is
Correct.
a
Yeah.
known statistic. So,
Mm-hmm.
for some people that'll be enough to say no, but it's actually more acceptable for people with higher risk tolerance, right? They're like, no, if that's the worst that can happen, I can rebuild. So, is there something deeper than that for you? Like, is there something that drives you more than just weighing up the success and failure metric, or what can go wrong versus what can go right? Is there something else that sort of drives you to sort of push? Because you push, man. Like you're not just running a studio.
It would be something that I have to enjoy. And running Emerald Ball, I do enjoy um, thoroughly. It's it's everything for me. It's just such a rush. It's just a challenge um, to be organized, to deliver what your customers want, and to do it year after year. I mean, like this year's over, so it's, as far as I'm concerned, I'm done this year. So I'm thinking of next year, which is our 35th anniversary, because I enjoy what I do. Then I think about what do I need to do to improve for next year. And I do that every year. What can I do to improve? And I enjoy what I'm doing. That is the driving force.
Hmm. Okay, so you
You
enjoy
know
what
the
you.
saying, if your life is a holiday, then you never need a holiday.
That's interesting. Okay, so just to give people perspective on the Emerald Ball, how many entries did you have this year, 2023?
23, we have 12,800 entries. Um,
Fantastic.
for you listeners there in the United States, we judge the size of a comp by different factors. Number one, most of the people judge by how many entries you have. Now, keep this in mind. One competitor could do 5 entries or 100 entries.
Hmm.
So another gauge that I use a lot is the number of competitors
Yes.
because that speaks volume. And this year we have the most competitors
How,
ever, over 1,700 competitors over the 6-day competition, 1,400 to 1,600 competitors.
oh wow. Okay.
But
Yeah.
this year we went over 1,700 plus. And what that means, more people are coming to the Emerald Ball and not necessarily doing more entries per student. And I think the reason is when you come to the Emerald Ball, you realize that it's a good sized competition, and you have quarterfinals, you have semifinals, you have finals, you have competition, and you want to be rested. You want to do your best at your style.
Yeah.
So I think that's what drives Emerald Ball too. It's a competition. Um, Even a lot of beginners sometimes are a little shy from coming. Uh, I always say to them, this is a great comp to see what your future can be, how you can take your dancing year to year and how you can improve it. You can see all the other students, how they improve over the years. So even for the beginning bronze students, this comp could be scary for them, competitive wise, but if they look at it differently, it could be to their advantage.
Oh,
I don't know. How
absolutely.
do your students feel?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest is that I had two students, one who's done Blackpool with me, Pro-Am, she's done two of those, and then a
Yes.
few around Australia, and then one was a newcomer, right? I'm glad you had this category because she came from Australia to LA to do her first Pro-Am comp, and we didn't want to put her up into the silver category or anything too difficult because we didn't know how hard the competition would be, and it is seriously good. Like the level of competition truly is excellent, and that was great for me because then it's a true competition. But silver and gold, they were no joke. Like they were really difficult, and it was wonderful to watch. So she found that that was a great entry into Pro-Am, and now she knows what it means. Because I think it's easy for a competitor to think, no, I should do a higher level. I'm a gold medalist. I should do this. It's like, your competition is serious, and you need to know where you stand so you know where you can rise to, right? So you sort of need to know where your place will be. And you said something very interesting then about competitor people can come and look and see what they need to do. And your background as a dance sport competitor, and a top dance sport competitor too, not just a run of the mill. You and Donna were fantastic. How, and now you run into the dance business side of things. What is the opportunity for dance sport people, for dancers generally? Because it's not like society pushes dancing as a thing to pursue in your life. We're very weird people. It's a niche thing. It's art, right? So a lot of people get sidetracked. They get pulled away from parents, or they get told they should just go work a job. And so what are some things that people can do to see a pathway for themselves?
I lost you for a little bit, but I think what you're asking is, how do we bring dancing to more to the general public? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking? To have more masses to come in, participate in, or watch?
we'll get into that. Mainly, this is about the dancer. How can a dancer create a pathway for themselves to actually make a career or an income out of dancing?
Well, I can't speak for where you're at, but in the United States, that is very easy.
Okay.
I joke around. I mean, you can go to college here and spend 5 years and spend $250,000 on education. And a professional ballroom teacher can, and they do, make more money than someone who spent 5 years in college. I'm not saying if that's what you wish to do, go to college and do all that, that's fantastic. But in our business, you can be a dance teacher. We have so many dance studios here. You can earn a great income from teaching lessons, dancing with your students at competitions, go to events with your students. I almost say it's unlimited. When I was teaching 40 years ago, those opportunities were not there. The dancing in the United States was still small. There were like 8, 10 competitions a year. We have 150 competitions a year here.
Whoa.
Under only NDCA, under our national organization. If I just added every competition, we have over 225 competitions every year.
Okay, so the
Some
market's
weekends there'll
grown.
be 5 competitions in the United States. So what does that say? A lot of people are taking lessons. We need a lot of good teachers in America. And it's a great income. You can make fantastic income here.
So move to America is what I'm hearing. So,
Well, no, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I would say if I was in Poland or another country, I would think I would have that same opportunity. Maybe not as much as in America. Let me rephrase it. If you're not a high level teacher, if you're in America, you have a great chance of getting in and climb the ladder. If you're in Japan or other countries, I'm not familiar with it, but I think that may be a harder climb. And here's why. In America, we have so many studios. You do not have to be a top level instructor. Because when you're teaching beginning, we need someone that just knows how to communicate well, someone that knows how to move the student in the basics. As a matter of fact, you don't want a high level teacher doing that because that's too much knowledge to a brand new beginner right away. They cannot comprehend that. It's like if you want to be a programmer, I'm not going to give you everything like a master's degree right away. I'm going to teach you the ABCs.
yeah.
If you take a top expert teaching you, they will have no patience with you.
That's true, and I think that's good for anyone who does want to be a teacher to understand the levels of when somebody comes in versus somebody who's seasoned. There's a different way to teach, right? There's a pyramid, so to speak. So
Correct. Yeah.
there's
Right. And yeah.
yeah, and so because you've created the what was it called, the Dance Vision instructional syllabus, right? So uh,
Yes, we
do you?
have a curriculum.
Yeah.
Um, it used to be called DVIDA, DVIDA syllabus. We have the smooth and the rhythm and the ballroom Latin, but we're especially proud of our smooth and rhythm because over the history, it has not been revised and updated. And for the last 3 years since the pandemic, I have put the best team, one of the best team together to revise the smooth and rhythm syllabus.
Mm.
And I'm very looking forward to launching it. The Bronze Smooth was launched just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I mean, check out the Dance Vision website and order those things because, like, I'm big into technique and teaching, and I think the opportunities come when you understand your subject extremely well. But not every dancer is, and this is something that I always find interesting. So not every dancer will make a good business owner. All right, and so there's often a difference between the two specialties. So what are some tips you can sort of give people who are thinking, I know I'm a good teacher, I get on with my students, I'm going to go, instead of being independent teacher working for someone else, I'll run my own studio. Do you have any sort of words of wisdom or cautions against that, or optimism for it? Like, what would you
Um,
suggest?
well, if you're a really good teacher, then you ask yourself, how do you become a really good teacher? And then you ask yourself, how can I become a great manager? How can I become a great owner? So hopefully you ask that question while you're a teacher. Because if you do ask that question as the teacher, while you're teaching, wherever you're at, think like a manager, think like an owner, even though you're a teacher. Start doing the little things. And if you don't know what the little things are, then you're not ready to be a manager or a teacher because you're not thinking, you're not watching what your managers do, what your owner is doing. So that's my advice if you have an ambition to be a owner of a studio. Second is have a plan of what type of studio you want to run.
Okay.
Meaning, if you're working a certain studio, you probably only know what you learn in that studio. Think if
Correct.
you're going to open another studio, then you're going to go with what you know. And what you know is what you know in your studio. Try to learn more than what you know. Figure out what you don't know. Study other studios. Watch why other teachers are successful. Then have a plan of what type of studio you would like because it usually becomes your personality. There's many ways to be a successful studio owner, but I think it's best when it fits your personality and your lifestyle. Because owning a studio is 24/7. If you don't love it, then you shouldn't own it.
Okay, that's actually really good advice there. It's sort of like when you study dance, you master that technique, you learn that, but then you got to translate that to people running an actual business and the mechanics of running a business, right? So being aware, like you said, I think is a good observation actually. So like when you were making that change for yourself, can you remember like any significant risks that you took, um, in your entrepreneurial journey, like and how it paid off for you?
I'm not a risk taker, even though with what I have accomplished, I don't remember taking anything that I consider high risk. And maybe
Okay.
because I did my homework, I was more than prepared. I knew what my worst situation was, and the worst situation wasn't that bad. So I will be honest, I have never been like, oh, this is such a big risk, I can't sleep, or I got to make this happen or I'm going to lose everything. I have never put myself in that position.
See, that's interesting to me because I've I've done work with like Bob Proctor and some big names in the personal development industry, and they've always said that when you study
Yeah, I
success,
heard of him, Bob Proctor. I listened to him.
yeah. So I've often found that when you study successful people, the majority of them never see themselves as risk takers, and so the majority of people that don't really make things happen in their life, they see themselves as taking too much risk, so they've got to be safe. So I find that your answer is like sort of right on par with how most successful entrepreneurs think. They don't see themselves as a risk taker to begin with, and I think that's fascinating because it's an interesting way of looking at the world. And in a way, it's like the risk you take is not doing the thing, right? So you see the opportunity, and the risk is not taking the opportunity, right?
Right.
So what do you then see in terms of actually building, say, a strong brand and establishing yourself as a reputable figure in the dance sport industry? How do you actually do that?
If there's something consistent, I think I'm just a doer, meaning that I just do things. I don't wait a week, 5 days. I just keep doing things, and I think I gain the respect with my peers because I communicate with them. I do things, good or bad. I answer the question, and I'm very consistent with that from day one.
Do you think then networking, because this is obviously a big thing that's talked about within like the business world, right? Like your network is your net worth, those sorts of things. What about networking within the industry itself? Do you see some mistakes people make or things they don't actually do to help, whether it's dance sport competing or just the after part of dance sport? So building an adjudicating career or business itself. Do you see some networking things that could help or what people should do to put themselves in a good position?
I think when you're in a situation where you have a chance to network with many people, you should network with many people. What that means is we tend to gravitate to people we know and we talk and we hang with them. But there's a lot of people you have not met, don't know, and they may not even be what people consider high in their career. And so maybe they're not worth your time to go up and talk to them. I find that the opposite. I like to engage with everyone, regardless of the level they're at. And that's to me is how that's how I network.
Yeah. You're basically, yeah, you're humble enough in a way to just be able to talk to everyone, which I think is great because you don't know where people are going to, right? So do you often find people make that mistake? They only talk to certain people, or they uh, maybe their egos get in the way. Do you sort of see that happening?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Look at our business. I mean, we're in that business, so I see that a lot. Look, most people like to talk to your champions, right, or your finalists. What about the semifinalists, the quarterfinalists, the ones not even making the quarterfinals? Those are all people, and those are great numbers. That's part of your network too. And someone in the 48 is going to be a champion one day too, right?
That's right. That's right. That's interesting. I actually like that. That's good. That's good. See, one thing I wanted to know is with your relationship with Donna, right? How long have you been together?
Um, 41 years.
Wow. Okay, so that's world champion status there, dude. Good job. That's awesome. That's you're like number one. That's very good. So, and you obviously dance together. You run a business together. How how did you manage to keep things intact for 41 years, doing all of those things with a family?
I think we have what I call our own space, our own lane. Of course, we have the studio together, but we do, like I may do the business side, she may be more the creative side. When we have the family, she stay home. I was at my office, and so we did things that do not conflict with each other. Even at Emerald Ball, you will see that the decoration, the way everything is in the ballroom, I mean, the decor, the look, she's the engine behind that. I don't even get my hand involved in that really. Mine is more of the organization with the studio, questions, issues, and stuff. So when you're doing handling different lanes, what I call lanes of spaces, then you don't have much of a conflict. Do we ask each other? Yeah. She will ask me, what do you think the ballroom looks like? I may give her a suggestion, but in the end, she makes that decision because that's her space. Or like, do I need to refund somebody or because of her circumstances? And if I'm not sure, I ask her and she give her opinion, and then we make that decision. Then I make that decision.
So what you're saying is that if you took over the decorations, the Emerald Ball wouldn't work.
Probably not. Yes, you would probably say, "Whoa, it looks
Oh,
different. Looks
oh.
like Wayne cut the budget."
I like that about staying in your spaces and lanes. That's actually really good. And I think this is one thing that dancing teaches you a lot about is how a relationship can work and how it can't work as well, right? Like you learn a lot ballroom dancing and then sort of how to transverse life, right?
Right, dancing. Right, you have your own space. Right, each one of you. You work together. You don't go into somebody's space. Then friction starts. Argument starts.
So how do you and Donna resolve those things? So if you've got, because to be a high performer, you often have a lot of conflict. So, and if you don't have a lot of conflict, when you do have it, like what do you do to help? How do you get past it, so to speak, so you can actually still stay together?
I think over the years, I'm into a lot of meditation, yoga, self improvement. So I think at this point in my life, I have work on it where I know I can allow to let things go or not go into it and argue about it. And I'm more of the type to let things go and move on. And I've worked with that with even my staff, my coworkers. I think sometimes they have a harder time when something bothers them not to let it go. Instead, just move on and keep going.
Okay, so you like to take a sort of attitude or an approach to, I suppose, not sweating the small stuff. To an example, for an example, right? So letting things to,
Correct,
yeah,
correct, yeah.
sort of pick your battles, which I think at your level you need to, right? Otherwise, everything becomes a drama and a problem, and you can't operate, right? So, what does
Right,
uh
yeah.
is Donna a different personality to you in that regard?
Um, in what way? Like, what do you
So,
mean by
like,
different
so
personality?
my dance partner and myself, I'm quite strong headed, so is she. So learning to let go, very important. But then quite strong personalities, right? So trying to get somewhere. And I've had other people I've taught who I've seen, and they have very fluid personalities. The way they work together is very cooperative. It's a lot less confrontation. They work quite well together. So what I'm saying is that is Donna like like an opposite to you in a way, or is she very understanding of like all the ambition you have and the things that you're moving forward with?
I think it's more understanding. She goes with the flow, or if she didn't, I don't think we would be where we're at right now.
Hmm. Okay. So and I think this is good for dancers to know. Partner selection, people, number one. You need a good partner. Right.
True.
So I had a couple of questions here I'll throw your way from the audience, but I'll come to that in a second. So, family, how many children do you have?
2 boys.
2 boys. Do they dance?
They're 27 and 30.
Okay. 27 and
No, they do not dance. No. And 30, right. They not ballroom dance, but they do other type of dancing. But it was something that we didn't have a studio during that time. If we had a dance studio, they probably would take in lessons. But their interest was outside other sports that that we did and everything.
Okay, so that's for those who are parents. Do you think that as dancers with kids, you should put your kids into ballroom dancing? Because I've often found that's not always the case. There are very well-known dancers that their kids have never gone down the road of dancing at all. So what is your sort of advice to parents with children and who specifically dance, like ex-dance sport competitors? Is that something that they should push their kids, or should they let their kids' interests sort of help dictate that?
I think you should always let the kids' interests dictate where they go, because if they don't enjoy it, then you're working upstream. Why work upstream when you can choose something going downstream and everybody's happy?
Okay, I like that. Okay, so there's a good philosophy actually, right? Like going with the stream, not swimming against it.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to come back on the dance sports side of things, if that's okay, because you've got market knowledge, you see what's happening. Obviously, things have expanded a lot in the dance industry, and you often hear about it struggling or numbers declining and things like that. Like, what do you see the future of dance sport being? Where do you see it going?
Are you asking that in regards to United States or a certain country or the rest
Yeah,
of the world?
just yeah, well, both. Like, what's your feeling on things? Like, you got a
Okay.
pulse going on? Yeah. So
Well, if you look back 20 years from now, no, 30 years, 20 years, even 10 years, globally, our business has grown. There's more competition globally. More couples are dancing. Yes, someone could say 40 years ago there were a lot more couples, let's say at the German Open or Blackpool. But keep in mind, how many competitions were there? Probably a handful, right?
right.
So you had to go to those competitions if you wanted to dance. Today, we have so many competitions globally, and um, and I still feel that dancing is still small compared to other hobbies.
Mhm.
We're 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 little. We're like an ant in the whole scheme of things. And if you look at our space, and if I call this a little ant, we have a lot going on still. So imagine if this can explode. And I think in the United States, the dancing has grown a lot. And I would think the franchise, the two major franchises, Fred Astaire, Arthur Murray, over decades have kept the social business alive in America, but they also are the one that invest the money to grow it. And we are the lucky benefactors of the past history. I do believe moving forward, if we, in the United States, if we promote the dancing right or to the right market, it could go 5 times as big or more. So I do feel there's a big bright future here.
Because I often think about that a lot, right? Looking into markets, like when looking to invest in a venture or go into a space of a product to launch, there's a lot you have to calculate and take in, and one of that is growth, size of the market, opportunity, and dancing is an expensive hobby, right? That's what it's classified as a sort of category, like equestrian is,
Right,
for
it is.
example,
Yeah,
you know. And
yeah.
so you know, you look at how Formula One took off as a bunch of just rich dudes racing, and then it was organized and it became this behemoth, right? Which had mass appeal, but it wasn't always like that, right? It started off in the 40s and 50s of just dudes racing their stuff on the weekend around dirt tracks, and then it was organized and, you know, put together properly and got corporate money in, and, you know, obviously TV rights, and it exploded. So I mean, I'm not sure if dancing itself could ever lend itself to that, but I definitely can see there's a lot of room for growth. And then, so therefore, like, what are the growth opportunities? Because as a dance studio owner, I was always thinking, and this is because I'm in Australia, so I think it'd be a bit different if I was in America, but do you explore creating your own franchise system? Or do you go online instead? Or do you look at different ways of building a business within the dance industry, right? So where do you see sort of the opportunities for people to grow a dance business, for example?
I think everything you listed or mentioned are opportunities.
Okay.
I think it depends on which route you as a person want to take. I go back to, let's say if I want to open a franchise fast food, that's a lot of choices, right? Burger King, Taco Bell, Del Taco, Jack in the Box in the United States, right? And I'm sure in your country you have a lot of franchise, but each one has a different flavor. So if you compare that to the dance world, we have franchise studios. You can have independent studio. You can be an independent teacher, a freelancer. Um, you can maybe open another studio that's a little different than the way the franchise running it. So those are all options, and I think those are all great options. The success of it is not the option you pick. It's you, how well you prepare to go into the business. How often have you seen a great
Oh,
restaurant in a prime location close down?
true.
Prime location, right?
Mm.
You got, and then you go to a restaurant that's in a shithole, no parking, reservation takes 8 weeks, but you go because the
Mm.
food's great. So I go back to it's the people. That food's great because of the chef and the owner. So as someone who wants to get into the dance business, it's all about you. Yeah, I think any business is all about you, how well you prepare for it. There's more than one way to be successful in the ballroom dance studio business. It's your choice.
So being a good operator
If,
is,
if, it, if it was that easy, I want you to think about it.
mm,
If it was that easy, and someone say, here's the studio, you're going to be successful, we would have thousands of studios by now.
true. True. So being a good operator is obviously one of the things that's standing out to me right now. It's like learn to become a great operator and also spot like different opportunities, right? Because, so for example, I co-founded DSI TV in 2012. So we started streaming Blackpool, and then I was looking into that and going, okay, how do we get on some of these great dancers to come on board to do online content, to do things like that? But it was actually too early for a lot of them to even think like that. They weren't like, these are some of the great biggest names. People know these names, so I'm not going to mention them, but they just couldn't see the vision, man. They just didn't understand. So that side of it tanked, but the streaming kept going, and then you had already been in the game for like 20 years at this point, right? Like, so you had your own videos going since '92 with Dance Vision, and I remember
Right.
seeing those with my coach actually. And so you've been there from VHS, DVD, digital, yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's spotting opportunity, right? And it's moving with it, because people get taken out by that. They go, oh, we don't want to do DVDs. And then, that killed a lot of businesses. Blockbuster's a good example. They didn't buy Netflix, and then look where they are now, right? They had the opportunity to buy it, they
Right.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
So like spotting the opportunity and seeing where things go and move, where do you see things going for dancing? Because people are still going to need teachers, they're still going to need studios, so that'll be there, right? They'll still need competitions. What else
Right.
do you see coming?
I really don't see much more coming. I think we're in a small world compared to the everything else,
Hmm.
and we live in our own bubble, and we think in our own bubble. So, and if you're thinking, well, dancing all of a sudden take off, that's going to be very difficult. We have Dancing with the Stars in America already, strictly dancing, and Dancing with the Stars in every other country. And that has grown the business. Help us, okay? And that's one of the biggest shows that people can see what ballroom dancing is. So if we cannot grow our business bigger than what is given to us now, then you have to ask your question, can we
Mm.
grow bigger? It's out there. Maybe it's not.
Okay, that's
Maybe maybe this is a business for the, it's like a cult. People that really love this type of dancing. People that really love to um, this space. And
yeah.
it's a great dancing, dancing is the best organic drug in the world. You know it, I know it, a lot of people know it. How do we convey that to the mass of people? When I say convey it to the mass, how do we also make it affordable to the mass of people? Right now, I think most of us know how to um, cater to more private lessons, which cost more, which is great. That's a great niche to be in. But that's what I feel that 90% of the people in our world is just focused on that.
Okay, that's interesting. So the affordability aspect is an interesting one, and then that's where I think decentralization, so having things online, is very very good because that helps people access what's around, and people do have a lot of choice too. So that's what you're also competing against. I often laugh and say that my biggest competition with marketing classes is not necessarily the price; it's actually Netflix and the couch. So getting
Yeah,
people
that
to,
is possible. Right.
do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's just there's so much choice, people can choose a
Yes.
lot of things. So I don't necessarily know if it's always about like immense growth and taking over bigger than other markets. Often it's like you said, we're crazy. Dancers are crazy, Wayne. We are different
Of
people.
course.
We're wild,
Of course,
you
because
know.
of the love of dancing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
the love
best
of dance.
organic drug.
I love
I
that.
mean, think about it. Who's going to spend thousands of dollars on dresses, hundreds and hundreds on lessons? Someone that's addicted.
Yeah, or fly
But
from
dancing, I would, yeah, fly from Australia to the Emerald
for
Ball.
like a
I mean,
couple of minutes per dance. Like, come on now.
right. That's right. You think about it. I mean, I started dancing because I loved it. I was addicted to it.
You were pursuing Donna, all right? That's what was happening, right?
No, dancing was first, actually. That's another history.
That's awesome, man. I mean, look, I think this is great. I do have about expense. I would like to talk to you about that. I have a question from
Yes,
Beatrice, if that's all right, and I'd like you to. I'll throw it to you, and
I
you can
see
see what you answer. So she says,
that.
with all my respects for organizers, will the competitions be more affordable, or is this an expensive sport and art? Thanks, Vaughn.
Hello, Beatrice from Houston. By the way, I have dance vision franchise studios in that area too. But to answer your question, unfortunately, I don't think the pricing is going to go down for competitions because of the expense it takes to run it. And it's not getting cheaper. It's only going to get more expensive with what hotels charging. However, I don't know if you're in a studio already, but it does. You can participate in studio team match or a studio one-day competition. Those are generally less expensive, and so that could be the focus in the space that you go into. But to your point, Beatrice, for dancing competitions to get lower, we will need a large volume of people coming to our business, creating, you know, a lot more students and everything. And then then we can have the large volume coming to competitions and bringing the price down.
Yeah, cool.
I hope I answered your question, Beatrice, but
Yeah,
it's an answer you probably don't want to hear.
I was going to say it's probably not an answer people want to hear because I do know price is prohibitive for a lot of our students, but then a lot don't realize the business side of things, like the costs involved, the insurances and the rents and advertising costs and those things. And then you need supply and demand. You have to have more people can help bring the price down a little bit for ticketing, and those sorts of dynamics. So, but that's the nature of the business. So for me, this is one of the reasons I have this podcast, is to help people get a different mindset. Sometimes it's more about increasing your resources and increasing your resourcefulness and figuring it out if you want to do it. And that's what we had to do, is bootstrapping dancers. Like, how do we make more money to dance? It wasn't working more hours sometimes. Sometimes it was a second job. Other times it was putting on an event in our community and we made profit from that, and that would help fund our dancing. So there were different ways to think and approach the goal. And this is why I love this interview with you, because it's just opening up people's perspective a bit, because a lot of people get into their mindset of one studio, how it works, and they don't realize that they can actually do more, they can be more.
Correct. That's right.
So, Wayne, I want to thank you for being here. And is there, do you have any final sort of thoughts or tips for any aspiring dance sport competitors or anyone running a studio, or any general sentiments out there you'd like to share?
If I have one thought, if you're running a studio or even in a partnership, I think what I learned from someone that was very smart and brilliant in the dance business, he talked about communication. It's always important to communicate. So if you're a studio owner, are you communicating to your students, your teachers, your managers consistently, and everybody's on the same page? It's usually lack of communication that create the problem. And in a partnership, you need to communicate with your partner clearly, understand both sides, and keep communicating, and hopefully you fight less.
That would be good. That would be good. All right. Well, listen, Wayne, thank you so much for your time today. And I appreciate you being here. Please check out dancevision.com. Support all the which championships throughout the year can they support that you run?
I only have two, the Emerald Ball DanceSport Championships in May and the United States Dance Championship in September. I have one more, but it's a Dance Vision National Championship. It's a closed event to teachers that have been certified with Dance Vision.
Fantastic. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Thank you, Wayne. Round of applause. Boom. Nice.